Hey guys, we're in Visorhead and we're at Motorcycle Live London today. Check it out.
I'd just like to welcome Austin Vince to the stage first and foremost. Austin, welcome.
Cheers, Nathan. I'd like to say thank you very much to Nathan Millwood, because without his energy, drive, and access to the secret corridors at Lynchwood in Peterborough, none of this would happen. I don't mean the whole show, but the adventure thing is all down to Nathan Millwood. So why don't we give him a massive round of applause? Woo!
That's fine.
Yeah, this guy's too busy texting to applause. Yeah.
I mean, I think
noted.
You
Stand up.
You want to do it on your own? Basically,
Story of my life.
Not last night. I'm sharing a room with Austin, so it's he doesn't do anything on his own.
He caught me bullshitting.
No bad language. No, obviously want to welcome Austin to the stage. When I was presented with the opportunity to bring along 8 different people and 8 different bikes, I think it was an obvious selection to have Austin here with one of the original Mondo Enduro bikes. It is an iconic show, and for the fact that there's only one remaining bike from that show remaining, the fact that all the rest have been stolen from London.
Hey guys, we've got Austin Vince here, an amazing filmmaker and traveler who's produced the Mondo Enduro that I think, well, if not everyone, but a lot of people in the adventure world, took their inspiration from for their filmmaking and traveling as well. Can you tell us a bit about your new release, the Mondo Sahara, as well?
Sure. In about 3 years ago, I wanted to do a project that was a demonstration of what could be achieved in only 28 days.
Oh,
because a lot of people, a lot of people say to me that they'd seen my films, but they could never possibly take a year off for a trip, and that therefore that was their kind of excuse that they sort of never did anything.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I wanted to create this 28-day project. Also, with the rising kind of schism between East and West, and between the Islamic and the non-Islamic world, I'm not religious or anything, but I didn't like the way that a lot of people in the motorcycle community had suddenly developed pretty acute Islamophobia.
Yeah, they just wouldn't go to.
Yeah, and the only times that you ever saw an Englishman in an Islamic country, in Iraq or Afghanistan, is that they were there, in military uniform with a gun, asking somebody for their papers. So I wanted to create a project where I took a load of Englishmen and Americans to an Islamic country for a motorcycle experience. That would be where we would be the positive ambassadors for the West.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's dare I say it, my first political film.
That's incredible, because now you can certainly see this fear to go somewhere like Pakistan and Iran. Obviously, because it's not only about fear of Islam or fear of those cultures.
Yeah.
It's fear about just being kidnapped because they're and murdered, because there are a lot of things that happen there. But that's what
happens in England.
Yeah.
People get kidnapped and murdered in England all the time.
There are so many people right now who are traveling through Pakistan and Iran and doing amazing things, and they just say that it's all media, right?
My wife did a 2-month trip around Iran, lowest price, last year, and not only did she have a good time, but she had a better time than she would have had if she'd been riding around England. She had more kindness shown to her by complete strangers than she would get in Europe. So it was almost like an experiment to develop, or the conclusion of which was that Iran is a more civilized society than Britain.
That's a very interesting turn.
Yeah, I never would have said that 10 years ago. Because of course you naturally think that your society that you grew up in, with your shared values, we're the normal people.
Yeah, we understand it.
Yeah,
that's why it's normal.
We're rational. Yeah. It's all the funny other people who they don't get it.
Right,
they don't get our civilized way of life with our parliamentary democracy and our freedom of the press and and our emancipation of women. It must be us who's the best, and then maybe it turns out it's not.
That's a very interesting. Topic, because we're actually filming. We're going to Vietnam, but one of the outputs of our trip is going to be a documentary specifically focused on gender equality as well, because that's kind of a topic that we're strongly, we strongly believe in.
Excellent.
And these,
wholesome.
Yeah, but but these countries are not really known for that. But there is also a lot of people who stand up and and they try to promote those values in those countries. So we wanted to share their kind of positive stories instead of showing something in a negative light. So we want to kind of show that people are actually doing something good and improving their kind of perception of equality, I think.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's a thing. So we're going to film a lot of stuff, and that's another question for you. You're producing DVDs, you're shooting that on the way. What's the percentage of your luggage space is taken by cameras, like sound recording equipment and all of that? Like, is it, or you're trying to go as compact, as light as possible to leave space for something else?
Nowadays, the amount of equipment that you need is less than ever. I would suggest.
Tiny
it's
cameras.
smaller than ever.
Yeah.
The camera we had on Mondo Enduro was like the size of a rugby ball. You couldn't shoot with it discreetly at all. So now the gear is very simple and fantastic. And if you know what you're doing, you don't need to be encumbered with lots of equipment.
Yeah.
That's true. I teach filmmaking, especially adventure travel filmmaking, and one of the biggest misconceptions is that a great film comes from having great equipment. And you could make a world-changing film that became a classic with just your phone, if you were the right person in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. There's multiple facets to it, right? It's not about the picture, not only about the picture quality, it's about the content.
No, it's only about the story, really.
Yeah.
As long as it's watchable, it's got to be in focus.
Yeah. Obviously.
It's got to be. There's a few rules to play by, but the clarity of the picture being HD or whatever is not what's wrong. Is not the issue. Is not the criteria. Or else old films would be unwatchable.
Oh yeah. But it's still
they're not unwatchable.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a content that matters actually. But nowadays with gear becoming smaller and smaller and producing great content, I think it's going to all come together. So you won't need to strap a huge camera to your
But no one's had to strap a huge camera on since 16mm cameras.
Yeah. All right.
And even they were not. That wasn't the problem. It was the film stock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Films, 16mm film stock is a lot of stuff.
Now with all the filming, it takes so much less space right now. So you can just send it back home, buy new cards and everything. Another question is, what would be like your essential, like let's say five accessories that you wouldn't leave on adventure without?
That's very easy. A Leatherman pen knife.
All right. Yeah.
The Motion Pro trail tool, which is a multi-tool.
Oh, okay. That's
the size of your fist, and it does lots of little things. Very clever, very well designed. I wouldn't go away without Michelin heavy duty inner tubes. Very heavy duty inner tubes that they're called, and they're 4.5mm thick.
Wow.
So that means that the likelihood of you getting a puncture is like almost zero.
That's incredible.
And yeah. And they're a new invention that have transformed my life.
Otherwise, you would carry so many tubes with you.
Tubes and puncture repairs, and then levers and all that stuff. Now, I would, with heavy-duty inner tubes and new tires, I use Michelin AC10s. I would expect to not get a puncture at all. Whereas before, I would expect to get a puncture. But yeah, those things, and obviously cable ties, and I must admit, I like to have a 12-volt pump
Oh yeah, the little.
I don't like using the hand pump.
No.
So if you've got a small 12-volt pump, then whatever happens, that'll, and obviously that connects to the battery.
Nice.
Or
Oh,
if you haven't got a battery, you have to start the engine, and then it connect. You can run it off the engine.
Useful.
Yeah, I think those are the only things that you need: sleeping bag, obviously, and a thermarest, and a tarp.
You don't need a big tent.
No, or you don't need a small tent. I like the tarp because my experience is that if you have a tent, you tend to put it up just because you've got it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got a tent, you only put the tarp up if you think it's going to rain.
So you actually sleep outside?
Oh, absolutely. That I think is one of the targets of adventure motorcycling, is sleeping outside.
That's incredible. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Oh, that to me is the whole point. And sleeping outside in a different place every night.
You see different skies?
Yeah. And waking up and looking at the sky,
What if there is a sandstorm or something? You wake up with a lot of sand in your mouth.
Yeah. A sandstorm, remember, is an incredibly unusual occurrence.
I wouldn't know.
And a sandstorm is not enough of a reason to sleep in a tent every night. And if something goes wrong from you not being in a tent, you'll find shelter.
Makes sense. It's an interesting one. Hey Austin, can you please tell me about the Adventure Travel Film Festival that you started?
It's now 6 years old.
6 years, yeah.
And it's two things. It's a platform where independent filmmakers can get their adventure travel films shown, because at the moment that's only the internet.
Yeah, obviously.
So an actual festival where adventure travel films are celebrated doesn't exist in the world. We're the only one. And there were so many people making great adventure travel films, and they weren't famous, so they couldn't get on TV or whatever. We wanted them to have a home. And the other thing is that we want to inspire people. So we want the audience that come, they take ideas from it, and they copy certain things, or they learn things from people's mistakes. And it's a really healthy way of doing it, instead of just spending all the research time on the internet. A weekend event where everybody is sympathetic to
it's not 1 day, it's 2 days?
It's a 2-day event, yeah. Arrive on Friday, go on Sunday, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so it's very much a coming together of a community of people who are very interested in not just going somewhere, but where a long journey to somewhere, that is the experience itself.
Wow.
Rather than the destination.
When is it this year?
The 12th to the 14th of August.
12th to the 14th.
In the grounds of Mill Hill School in northwest London.
I would definitely try and be there. That would be great.
It's great. It's great.
I can't wait to actually be a part of this community of filmmakers that do stuff on the road.
There's 1,000 people come to it.
1,000 people?
Yeah.
What is the general kind of public? Who are those people? Are just filmmakers?
Absolutely cannot generalize.
Right. So broad spectrum.
Very broad spectrum. They have one thing in common, that they get it. They think driving halfway around the world, or in a car or a motorbike or a bicycle or on a horse or on a camel, that makes complete sense to them. That's something that you would want to do.
So they're part of us, part of this community that want to do stuff.
Yeah, and even if they don't want to do it, they're the kind of people who think that would be an interesting story to hear. So I would like to think they're very, very sophisticated. They're cosmopolitan, they're outward looking, they're not terrified of the world, and they are broad-minded, and they have something about them that makes them look beyond the horizon. They're big thinkers.
Yeah, wow. People who want to see the world through their eyes, or maybe through someone else presenting them and actually exploring something new.
Also, the adventure travel phenomenon is an extension of what maybe 20 years ago would have been travel. And people say, oh yeah, I like to travel, which normally means I like to fly somewhere, look around, then fly home. Now the adventure travel idea is different to that. It's not about going somewhere, it's not about being somewhere, it's about going somewhere. And it's making the duration of your experience actually all about the journey.
The experience.
The trans, you know, and obviously this tends to be overland because there's more happening. If you row across the Atlantic,
it'll be pretty bored.
Day one is pretty much the same as day 30, isn't it? You know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a different kind of thing. You know, so we're very much. People are really aware that when you transit an entire nation from one side to the other, and then the country after that, you have an experience that is completely different to if you went to those two countries separately and flew into the capital.
Yeah, it's sterile, kind of. You just look at it, go back.
Yeah.
Here you get there.
And also there is something that nobody talks about, which I'm gradually realizing is very important, is that if you are traveling by a mechanism, at the very least a bicycle, but if it's got an engine or it's alive, the thing that you're traveling with, that is a colossal commitment to the project. You cannot just, when you get bored or tired, say, actually, I'm just going to go home now. Or like a backpacker can say, oh, actually, I'm tired, I won't hike this, I'll just get a bus. You know. You are trapped with that thing, and you've got to see it through, or give up, you know. And that completely transforms what your 4-month experience is like, compared to so you're going to Vietnam. If you went to Vietnam on public transport, it would be relatively straightforward.
You'd spend to Vietnam?
Yeah. No. Or if you went on trains and stuff. If you went overland on public transport, it wouldn't be very hard.
No. Even just planning maybe would be a bit hard.
You know.
Get this, get there.
Can I get a ticket?
Yeah.
No, or I get a ticket tomorrow, you know. And then when you're on the bus, you just sit there.
And read.
Sit there and read.
Yeah.
Oh, we're there now. Okay, next, you know. It's completely different from when the well-being of the machine or the animal is down to you.
I think it's part of this whole experience that you are experiencing every single second of it.
You're in it. Yeah.
This is what we are after, every one of us here, I think, in Adventure World.
A visceral experience.
Yeah, well, it's just being and exploring every single second.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Great.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck on your trip.
Oh, thanks.